I'm Michelle Fleming. I'm the Communications Director here in Charlotte, North Carolina in the GCI Home Office.
And I'm Greg Williams. I'm President of Grace Communion International, working out of the Home Office here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
What you want to press the button?
You can press the button. Here we go.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle Fleming. I'm the Communications Director at the GCI Home Office in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a huge part of who I am today is because of Greg Williams.
Hello, I'm Greg Williams. I'm at the Home Office of Grace Communion International in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I want to talk to you about a young woman that I've had the pleasure to mentor, Michelle Fleming, and Michelle has no middle name.
If Greg wasn't in pastoral ministry, I'm pretty sure he would be a professional football coach. If there was a zombie apocalypse, Greg would dominate, and I would definitely follow him around and try and be on his safe team.
So if I were to give her a middle name from a biblical character, I would choose Mary, the sister of Martha. And I would do this for several reasons, because Michelle is that person who sits at the feet of Jesus. She is a Christ follower who sits there. She yearns to draw closer to Jesus. She wants to learn more. She wants to follow better. If I had one word for Michelle, the word would be disciple or discipleship. She's really very much a priority for her to be that good disciple and want to see others become disciples too.
Greg is known for the phrase, what would it look like? And then coming up with a really strategic idea. And that's actually one of the things I admire about Greg. He's naturally strategic, he's a quick thinker, he's decisive.
So what is something that Michelle can't live without? And I would say it would be her water bottle. Wherever she goes, she's got a water bottle. She owns a whole collection of water bottles. She's also lost a few water bottles along the way, so I'm sure there's some of the Hilton hotels that have claimed her lost water bottles. It is highly likely, this is something that most people would not know about Michelle, but it's highly likely that there will be a piece of either overripe or rotting fruit in one of her desk drawers. So that's something that you might not know about Michelle. There other question here too, what is something that she cares a lot about? Michelle is that person, she's so reflective, she cares a lot about feedback. Whether that's about her personally, of how she's doing, how she's relating to her coworkers, what role she plays around the office. She wants to know how she's doing, and she's not always looking just for the positive. She also wants to see the ways that she can improve. She also, with content, she wants to review that. I have lots of conversations with Michelle, going over all the content of what media is producing, even thinking about the themes and what's timely for our churches and our pastors, and it's a pleasure doing that. But she really desires that feedback. If I wanted to give her a great surprise, and probably the gift that would really speak to her and what is life-giving to her, the perfect gift for Michelle would be a getaway package to a beach setting. She loves the ocean, she's a beach girl, and it would need to have an amazing spa so she could have some wonderful spa treatments, and I think she would really enjoy that.
But he knows that we are better together, and he really lives out being team-based. And so he brings others along, he invests in others, and he really follows the lead of the Holy Spirit so that we can image our triune God in living and working in community. And it's a joy to be on this journey with him.
Michelle, to me, is way more than a mentee. Michelle is a highly respected colleague. And I have to say, for all the attributes, all the gifts, all the things that she brings to GCI, she makes me a better president. So thank you, Michelle, and I look forward to having this mutual discussion with you later.
How true it is.
I mean, Greg said a lot of nice things about me, so I hope it was true.
We just got started.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a good journey down memory lane a little bit. I don't know if I remember like a specific instance of our mentoring relationship beginning, but I do know that we met at Higher Ground Summer Camp, I'm
Right.
pretty sure, or maybe one of those Discovery weekends in North Carolina.
You came to the camp at Orr one time?
Yeah, but I didn't meet you.
No, I don't think you were a different session.
I was probably just crying in a corner.
Probably reading a book.
Trying to find a book to read. So no, I don't think we met that.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, so through Higher Ground camps, I think you also started the GenMin Advisory Board after I was a counselor at Higher Ground.
Yes.
And asked me to work with you there. And then I think we've just continued to establish that kind of collegiality and investment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew your brother Robert and your sister Annie from camp, and I actually knew you and your siblings before I ever got to know your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Which is like an interesting twist to it. But then you were on my advisory team for my doctoral project too. Remember that?
Right. Yeah, many advisory teams.
Yes, exactly.
That's how it started. Yeah.
Well, I've always seen in Michelle, I guess we never like formally said, hey, let's do this, let's do that. I do remember saying to you at some point, it was probably coming down to Jacksonville when you were in grad school down there and working with Marty, and you were an unofficial intern, remember? We
Yes.
did, we kind of kept that a little bit.
A rogue intern, some would say.
Well, yeah. Well, we kind of did that based on your comfort level too. We didn't necessarily, write articles and make a big to do about it. But you were learning. Marty had a lot of trust and confidence in you, and I have felt the same way. I mean, it's a big part of the whole journey. Is I've just had a lot of confidence in your, not just your abilities, but your vast experience, your wide range of just like a Renaissance woman in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
And so that always made me think that you would be someone I would like to work with. And didn't I say at one point that whenever you're ready, just give me a call?
You did. You did. No, I think that's something that I think as our relationship has grown and unfolded, there was always space to explore, but then support if I needed it. And I think we saw that through even just being a camp counselor. I think you would have breakfast with the counselors.
I did.
And kind of debrief, and that was really helpful, I think, in processing being in that kind of position. And I've experienced that throughout all the different iterations that we've worked together. It's like there's a space and a freedom to be able to do it my way, but to know that there are goals that we have and that we're going to do a debrief and talk about how we can do it better. So there's like that refining process that's involved as well. And so I've just really appreciated that. And I've grown a lot, I think, because of your leadership in that kind of way. And I don't know if that's very common. I think sometimes you have to earn a credibility, and maybe I'd earned a credibility that I didn't know I had, but I always felt a mutual respect and trust, and I think that's been an important part of our mentoring relationship together.
I think that's true with any mentoring relationship. There's got to be that understanding. Michelle and I are both middle children, and we've kind of commented about how we play that role in our families, and so in a lot of ways we understand each other even based on that commonality. And for me, I see in Michelle too, we both process. We were talking about the things we shared, right? We even share a similar sense of humor too. Some of the things that we see, I told her earlier that I don't think it's looking at things in a cynical way, but I like to think of the realism. We kind of see, what's going on and see the nuance of what's happening, especially in relationships. You're a big fan of the Enneagram, and I love how Michelle, she's got this discernment for seeing, how people are, but she won't categorize them. She says, no, I experience this person as a number 2 or a number 8 or whatever it is, but you're holding up their value of not trying to put them in a box. So I appreciate that about you. I find it funny as well.
Because you know what I really mean?
I do. you're very perceptive when it comes to understanding people.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think there's a shared communication style. Like, I appreciate that you are direct and kind. Clear as kind. I think that's important. Like,
right.
I know what you expect. I know what you're thinking, and you're not afraid to hear a different perspective as well. There's a safety to be able to speak truth to you and to know that it's going to be received and processed. And I think that creates a space where I'm not someone who would always share my opinion, but I've felt open to be able to do that because you're receptive to that and open, and I appreciate that.
I think that's important because the Bible talks about Paul's instruction is that we speak the truth in love to each other, and I think we've developed that. That doesn't happen immediately, but I think over time there's a chemistry in the relationship there, but there's a sense that you get to the place where it really flows when you do have the power to say, okay, I know this is not going to be an easy conversation, but I know Michelle will be receptive to it. And I know that on my side too, coming in.
It's mutual for sure.
Boy, I don't know if there's just one highlight that I could put my finger on. I mean, Michelle was, I think even when we have our planning meetings and we bring the U.S. team together, Michelle will constantly are we going to be worshipers before we're workers? She does that constantly, and I really appreciate the reminder for that, because being an 8 and being goal-oriented and driven, sometimes it's we got so much to cover, but no, we're not going to go anywhere without the leadership of the Holy Spirit. We're not going to go anywhere, if we don't submit ourselves to Christ being the head of the church and that we are, surrendered to Him. So she's always done a good job when we have these times of saying, okay, let's slow down a little bit, let's have some time for worship. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think in general in relationships, I think, God is in community, we're in community with one another. I think that's how we're sanctified, is in relationship with one another. And I think one of the ways I have been sanctified and been more like Jesus because of Greg is because he's not afraid to ask. I think sometimes people are protective and they're like, oh no, this person can't do this because of this, but he has, for example, with the conference with no experience planning a big event like that. I think even in asking me to be media director, the confidence you have in me has put me in situations that have pushed me beyond my knowledge, my capability, and helped me to rely on God and the team that we have in place, and so I think that I experienced God in that, in our relationship, and the ability to, it's not like you're trying to make me be who you want me to be. You see something in me and create the space for that to happen, and that's a nuance, but I think there's a huge distinction there where I know that there's a trust and an affinity that it really is an ask and not strings attached.
Right.
I won't see you the same way if this doesn't happen. And there's a safety there that I think we don't always experience in human relationships or in working relationships, because when you're working together, there is a transactional approach to it. You know, you're here to do a job, and we both understand that. But we work within our teams to make sure that our teams are supporting one another. And I think that's an experience of how God is and who He is too.
Well, you said from day one when you came on to oversee media, you said this really is an extension of the president's office, and I thought that's a good way to look at it, and that's the way we've worked. That's why even in our office space that we're situated in the same suite so that we can have the conversations. Michelle and I will make appointments from time to time because my travel gets out of whack and then we get out of touch, but we keep our doors open and we kind of go back and forth and we talk often. And I think that's really so crucial to a good relationship in that way, that the communication remains open and then it's two-way. I feel like in a lot of ways there's this concept of reverse mentoring. And someone I was talking to recently who has studied even more about mentoring probably than I have was saying that even if you're the senior, more experienced person, you're still going to be learning. You're still going to be learning, and that's, I think both of us, we think of ourselves as lifelong learners, and that's what we try to live into that. But even in the reverse mentoring, that maybe you are giving out of your experience, but there's usually like a ratio, and I don't know who did the studies and all this, but they say it's at least 70-30. Even for the senior person who may have more experience to give, they're still drawing back from the other one in ways, and I think I wouldn't put 70-30 on ours. I don't know if you can put a percentage on it, but I've learned good team dynamics. I've learned a lot of things that you bring to me that expose me to new ways of thinking that makes me better.
Thank you. Yeah, I think mutuality is what
Yes.
you're saying is a huge part of any healthy mentoring relationship. That's
You
kind of
said
the
that
advice
so
I would
much
give.
more concisely than I did. Mutuality, I like that. Mutuality, very good.
I think the real fruit of a mentoring relationship can be seen in difficult times,
Yes.
or in times that are challenging. I think what really solidified beyond us kind of working together occasionally was the 2013, back then it was the international conference.
Yes.
You asked me to start the GenMin program, and that was a big task.
It was.
And you provided support. We met together, but I think collaborating in that, and like I said before, there was freedom. We laid out, we planned together, but then you released me and you connected me with other people who you knew, who I might not have known within GCI, to be able to help and provide support. And that was a really meaningful experience for me, I think. I don't think I'd been trusted in that kind of way before. I didn't think I saw that I had it in me to do that, but you saw that and gave me the space to do it. And then we also processed and thought about how to make it even better the next time
Right.
too, which I think is helpful, because I think it's important to, I'm a very goal-oriented person too, and I think you are as well.
Yes,
It's important to set a bar and a standard and saying, this is where we're going to get there, and to know that it's not like, oh, whatever Michelle does is going to be beautiful and good. It's like, no, we want this to reflect who God is.
Right.
We want this to reflect
Right.
His excellence, and to know that we're going to be collaborating together to bring that about, that it's not all on my shoulders, but to have the space to do that. There were times where it was kind of overwhelming, but there was support available when it was. But on the other side of that, I think that was very formational.
Yes. It brings back a good memory for me too, because I'm remembering a pizza party around the pool. I'm remembering the bowling activities, and I just remember how the young people just were so hungry for the attention and the fellowship, not only with each other, but even those of us who were serving them, and that was good. I think of another time too when you did come and you actually stayed with Susan and me too. It's really helpful that she has such a good relationship with Susan, because they are a lot alike. They could be sisters, and so.
A good dear friend, yeah.
But the sense of coming in and helping with some of our educational goals and helping to bring more alignment in what we're doing, and now we're circling back to that again, which is great. But the sense of we had to move, or were moving from California to North Carolina, and asking you to step into the media director role, which that wasn't necessarily all of your training and background. And I knew that, but I also had confidence too that I knew that you knew how to build a team. You knew how to assemble people around you that could do the things that needed to be done. And you've done a marvelous job with that. So you did, people say, oh, such a surprise. I wasn't surprised at all.
Thank you. Well, that was the next one I was going to bring up. I was going to bring up, I think there was the challenge of the conference, but then also I think too, it was a lot for me to move across the country twice and to change roles twice within a 2-year span. I mean, that was a lot for me to process, and to know that you understood where I was, that if I gave feedback and said, this is a lot for me, you were able to create the space that I think helped me from burning out, because that's a common thing we see in ministry with young people. And I think being understood and being able to communicate, this is what my capacity is, and having that be responded to, I think has been a really big part of our relationship too.
That's
and
good.
I appreciate that.
Well, we've had challenges that we've faced together, and it's not just you and me. We have a support team, that there are other people who do things that you and I don't have the gifting and the background for. But you're team-oriented, and I am team-oriented too, and that's we both work out of that posture, which I think, helps for the overall good of the church. But I'm just thinking, even as we talk, we both tend to process even as we're talking, and I'm processing right now. But I'm just thinking about how our relationship, there were event-based things that we did together, because you lived in different parts. You were in Florida, I was in North Carolina, then I was in California. But it was great when you came together, to be in the same office and working in the same space together. I felt like that was, but it went from just being, friends who occasionally did some ministry together to really being more of a formalized mentoring relationship, but now being colleagues, working together. I really think of you as bringing a professionalism to our staff in a way that was very much needed. You have a holistic view of how even the departments work together and how the relationships, how they either work together or sometimes don't always work together. And you have that insight. And so you share those things with me, and I don't know if you realize how valuable that is, but it's really helpful for me. You kind of give me you're like the barometer that kind of, tells us what the climate is. So that's really, really helpful.
Thank you. And just even in processing this, what has helped me think about it too is I think in those challenging times, difficult times, being able to communicate truth and love, I think you see that there is value in the relationship and not just in performance.
Yes.
We are both very goal-oriented people, but we are also, as you said before, disciples first, and we care about other people, and we care about one another. And I know that we have a high regard for one another,
right,
regardless of performance.
Right.
We spur one another along in that,
yes,
but there is just a regard as being children of God together. And I think that's powerful for any mentoring relationship.
I do too. You experienced me as being an 8, but with the 7 wing, and
yes.
so I am goal oriented and driven in my personality, but I also have an adventurous side. So that I'm going to really be all about going on a lake trip after we do our meetings, and so that we do mix the work and we do have some fun along the way too.
Yeah, team fun.
No, it's good. It's good. You've been a gift in my life. You really have. And a gift for GCI too, just what you bring to the overall team, and how you have a good perspective that I think really is a Christ-like perspective.
Thank you. Well, thank you for seeing things in me that I didn't know were there.
Yeah.
And I really do mean what I said in the video. A huge part of who I am is because of you and how you see me. So thank you.
I appreciate that. We're having a kumbaya moment here today. So no, but mentoring there should be, it's at the heart of it. It's really relationship. I thank you for bringing up, some of the past memories and things that we were a part of. It, seemed like that was a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I thought about this too, and thinking about the different ways we interacted. We also co-led a mentoring session together at one of the camp summits.
We
like,
did.
Look at that!
We did.
Foreshadowing.
We did. We did. Well, we've talked about it. I like the fact that there are times when the mentoring relationship may have a formality to it, the regular scheduled meetings and having, just being intentional about what you're doing. But there's something to be said about just the chemistry. I think God does bring us together, in the seasons that He wants to bring us together. And like you said, I've had people in my life who've seen things in me that I didn't see myself. I wrote about that in the book I wrote recently, just talking about some of those key figures who were there. But we all need that. We all need people who've gone before us who see, just see the not just the potential, but what's really in us that could actually be expressed in a bigger way. And so, thank you for saying yes to coming along. I know going across the country and back and forth, that was not your comfort zone.
No. Moving is hard the older you get.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, thanks for being flexible,
Thank you.
adaptable, and I think in some ways, we both have talked about how we'd like to continue to work together, even longer term.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's enjoy the time we have.
Amen.